And I'm going to feel like, no, I'm going to know that I forgot to say something. And 1 or 2 or 10 or 50 of you, because I didn't say that one thing, won't come to Jesus. Because I am so high and mighty, I am convinced that I might be the last chance you ever have. I'm absolutely convinced of it. Try sleeping at night, being me. You know, we're staying in a really nice hotel in LA, and 2 nights now I haven't slept. 2 nights. A lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. I don't prepare, but I'm totally convinced that if I don't say the right thing, people are going to die and go to hell. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. Sounds like ministry to me. Sounds like the bare, basic, bare bone, bottom line, minimum we can do for Jesus ministry, by the way. Not the big stuff. Not raising the dead. But every one of us who really does know Jesus, we know ministry happens wherever we are. And we sometimes only get one chance for someone before something bad happens. And the older you get, the more you know that. The more you know that. So I'm just going to say this. I can't see the clock. So if I'm going to have time, do I have more time still? All right. I want to go back to something I wanted to talk about, and then I want to finish. I did something profoundly, Christianly, irresponsible last night. And I dragged my really good conservative Christian friends to it. I went to go see the play in Los Angeles called The Exorcist. We went to go see The Exorcist live on stage. We paid money to do this. We paid money. It was $80 a pop. $240 to go see The Exorcist. It gets better. I scheduled this show because I knew I could go to The Exorcist, and so I wanted to work them out at the same time. So the trip paid for itself. So it's his fault that we went and did this. And there's more that I'm not admitting to, but I'm telling you, I'm bad, bad, bad. So anyone who wants to know, did anyone hear about it before I brought it up? Know this was going on in LA? Okay, well, wait till someone videotapes it and see it for free. That's my recommendation. But I want to talk about something. A lot of you laugh about The Exorcist, so let's break it down. Who actually picked up the book one day and read it? I'm the only one in the room of liars. Did your hand go up?
No.
You're waiting for me to say who saw the movie. Okay, admit it. Who saw the movie? Cliff. Ever seen The Exorcist? Okay, but you did. All right. She's holding Rosemary's Baby, by the way. But, all right. Who saw The Exorcist 2? The Heretic.
Oh.
All right. Yeah. We lose the audience. Who saw Exorcist 3? Okay. I'm going to tell you. There's all kinds of people that experience The Exorcist, but there's the fans, like people like me who like Kiss. We're also fans of The Exorcist. I read the book when I was 10. I know it by heart. There's only 2 books in the world I know by heart: The Exorcist and the Bible. I know the movie The Exorcist by heart, and I don't know Exorcist 2 or 3 by heart because they just got really bad. However, I was a working actor in Los Angeles, and I got hired in a role in Exorcist 3. And when I got hired, I had walking pneumonia. And I lied and said I was well because I wanted to be in an Exorcist movie. And when I got on the set that I was going to be in, they were building, and there was all this sawdust. And I literally could not breathe and had to be removed, and I went to the hospital and everything. And I never got to be in Exorcist 3. I was dying. And the only thing I cared about was I wasn't in The Exorcist 3. So this is all, by the way, you know, I want to say this is all before I became a Christian, but I was a full-on, spirit-filled Christian who went for an audition for Exorcist 3 with walking pneumonia because I wanted to be in this movie so bad. You know, this goes way back. By the way, I scheduled a concert in Barstow so I could go to LA and see the play. I'm a bad boy. I'm a bad, bad boy. But I've defended this, my entire Christian walk, for without recommending anybody do anything, but I'm telling you, the ones that are going to do it, they've done it. And for the record, I have 3 kids and they've never seen The Exorcist. Because I said, do not watch this with your friends. Do not do this at a friend's house late at night just for a laugh. Don't do this. If you're ever going to watch it, sit down and watch it with me so we can talk. I am convinced that there's no book written by anybody other than the Bible, and there's no film in history that has ever let human beings know so clearly what a devastating threat the devil can be. I do not believe for a second that people get possessed by Satan by reading or watching The Exorcist. I think the contrary happens. I think it's scary. I think the worst thing that happens to people, they see the power of God win, by the way, and they say his name is Jesus, by the way. There's very few secular movies that do that. But they see that Satan is so incredibly powerful, they're terrified of God afterwards because he's more powerful. I don't want either of them. You know what I'm saying? I'm too scared of either of them. And I think that's the negative that came out of it. But what I want to say is this, is I have battled for 30 years with Christians who don't believe in Satan. See, I say believe like it's weird, like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. And I believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy. And trust me, I know the boogeyman. See The Exorcist 30 times, then see if you ever sleep again. I also know who kicked butt on the boogeyman, by the way. And what bothers me is the Bible's not sufficient for people to take serious. There's a Satan. Not to believe in him like Santa Claus as some mythical fairy, but to know him, unfortunately, by recognizing him in their lives. There was such a Christian furor over the release of that film, and I didn't understand it because I wasn't a Christian, but as a Christian I've seen the film, and it is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life, and it's the most sobering thing I've ever seen in my life. And I walk away, and by the way, I don't sit around and watch this all the time, but there have been a couple occasions where I had opportunity to do this again, to see, and all it did was scare me more. It didn't scare me less. I walked away and I go, man, now you know what my nightmares look like. Now you know what I see when I see in the spirit, when I look out in a room full of people, and the suffering involved because they're being oppressed and possessed and depressed by this powerful force that they have no power and control over, because to them it's a myth. And it's usually Christians that I see this with. To be honest, and I'll be honest, I have done this, but I have done ministry training and I've made people sit down and watch it and talk about it afterwards and say, how many of you thought that was dumb? How many of you thought that was fake? Well, it was makeup. Yeah. You know what? Makeup can't be scary enough if you ever see what this looks like in real life. If you ever pray over a possessed person, makeup, green vomit, head spinning, and vulgar language is nothing compared to a completely possessed soul. And if I'm completely possessed by Jesus, which I am, I better be, because look at the stuff I play with. But if I'm completely possessed by Jesus, if someone doesn't know the Lord, aren't they completely possessed by Satan? Who owns you? What did Jesus say about it? Sounds like to me, from what I've read in the Bible, you hear the little sarcasm tone in my voice right about now? The Bible in the Bible, Jesus said, you call Abraham your father, but Satan's your father. And then he says you need to love your right father. He separates the dads. We're in one or two families. We're in one or two families. I have like 2,000 videos on YouTube, and I can count on one hand how many times I've threatened people with hell in a sermon, and how many times I've said, if you're not possessed by Jesus, you're possessed by Satan. I bet this is the only video that there is that's being filmed right now that I've actually used those words. I think it all the time. I just don't want to scare people. You tell a room full of kids, hey, you're all possessed by Satan if you're not possessed by Jesus. Well, great. It was great meeting you. Have a good night. You know? But I promise you, if you don't know Jesus in 2012, your inner life, your psyche, your dreams, your nightmares, your beliefs, your self-esteem, make all the stuff that my generation freaked out about that movie seem like a cartoon. That there's so much devastation happening in young people's lives. And you know, I have kids and they do know the Lord, and I see what they're up against. I see what their esteem is up against. And we talk about self-esteem so much, but do you care enough about yourself to decide who owns you? If I go out and I take your car, or I walk over and I take your shoes, you'll fight for it. But what about your soul? What about your soul? I want to conclude by saying that when I became a Christian, R-rated movies were a concern. Now, the worst thing I've ever seen, and I'm one of those who has to see it if they hear about it, as opposed to say, like him, that was bad, I won't watch it. I'm the opposite. I'm the one who runs and buys it so I can watch it over and over again and really study it so I have a real opinion about it. I'm not judging you, but I'm right. I stood in line to see Last Temptation of Christ the day it opened, when the whole world was in fear about it. And the woman in front of me talked to me, she goes, why are you here? And I said, because I'm a Christian. She goes, oh no, you don't have a bomb, do you? I said, no, I want to see the movie, man. I got red vines. She goes, you're a Christian and you want to see it? I said, of course. I said, I'm a minister and I want to form my own opinion. I want to have my own thoughts. She goes, really? She goes, well, what do you think about what's going on? And at the time, I attended a Foursquare church in Van Nuys, California, and my pastor was one of the people on the committee that tried to buy the movie, so it was never released. And he had never seen it. And she goes, really? And you're here? And I go, yeah, I think that's a really dumb idea. I said, this movie's never going to be seen by a lot of people. It's too long. It's 3 hours long. No one will see it. I said, we Christians need to take the money we'd spend buying this movie and make a good movie about Jesus. And just for the record, Passion of the Christ people, we haven't yet. But that's more violent than The Exorcist, by the way. That gave me more nightmares. But seriously, she looked at me, she said, I think you might really be a Christian. You're like the first Christian I've ever met. And I said, well, I'm glad because I have a bomb. No, we sat together at the movie and she kept watching me like, aren't you going to get mad? I was like, oh, I thought it was a great movie. The movie never said it was about my faith. The movie never said it was about my faith. That's very clear. It's just a cool movie. But today, we can't tell you not to go to the movies and listen to music anymore. That's all behind us. We can't tell you not to drink and do drugs. It's all behind us. We will try. We will try. We will try to steer you guys in the right direction. But we all know there's only one right direction, and it's almost impossible to steer someone who's not on their way anyways. That's the reality. That it's almost hopeless to raise Christians in 2012. It's almost hopeless. And that's why ministers quit. That's why ministers go do something else. Because it's a very painful job. Because we know what we've suffered for our sin in this life. And we know what we've missed out on in suffering by coming to Christ and the times we've been obedient. But we know that nobody talked us into it. And we know there have been very few examples along the way that have really inspired us. That in the end, we individuals just simply love Jesus. So we follow him. And because we follow him, we preach to others, hoping they'll be inspired or moved by the Spirit enough to give him a chance. But I've seen every movie we're not supposed to see. I've listened to every song we're not supposed to hear. Anything that anybody freaks out about in the news, that, you know, this is bad for Christians, this puts Christians in a bad light, I'm the first one there to check it out. And I don't think anyone can come to me with a story that would freak me out. I don't think anybody can show me something I haven't already seen. I don't think that, I don't know, I've left no stone unturned. And the only thing I can tell you is, there's nothing scarier than looking at people who may live their lives without Jesus. There's nothing grosser, there's nothing weirder, there's nothing freakier, there's nothing more offensive than lost souls. There's nothing. Nothing. I could sit and watch something that other people wouldn't watch over and over and over and over and over again, and it doesn't change my viewpoint about God, it doesn't change my viewpoint about Satan, it doesn't do anything except say to me, this is nothing compared to living your life not knowing Jesus and being a mannequin, a puppet for Satan. And I am totally convinced that you either are enslaved to Christ or you're enslaved to Satan. And yeah, there's that in-between place that's your flesh. Gosh, why create a gray area? Oh, saved brothers and sisters in the room. Why create a gray area when we only have one shot sometimes? Like for me, I really only have one shot. How many people were here the last time I was here? I get 2 shots. How many people have seen me more than twice now? 3 shots. 4 times. You've been here forever. I remember you from the first time I was here. You're a little bit boy.
Very close to get on James.
And I'd love to find out, and I don't want to see any hands, but I'd love to find out how many of you who raised your hands got it the first time, and your life changed after you heard these words. Or we're on the 4th or 5th or 6th time where your life's at. I'd love to know. And I'd like to challenge you to say, is it really where it should be? Are you really where you should be? Or are you playing out some weird drama, horror show before God as Satan makes a monstrosity of you and your life just to laugh at him, just to laugh at God, and using you as a simple victim, just a middleman or middle lady? I know some of you well, and I know you guys really do love the Lord, and I know anyone who sits this long is open. I know that. Even the most closed person in the room, you're open. That I know. There's a door, and people can suddenly need to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes, or I've seen it. I do it. I go to your churches and sit in the back so I can sneak out the minute the sermon starts. Ah, you guys are boring. Anyone who comes out and tells a joke first, I hate that stuff. Go straight for the nitty-gritty. Offend the room, scare the room, then I'm fascinated. That's right. Give me a horror show and I'll pay attention. That's why I do the Rocky Horror Jesus Show thing. So, guys, if you're here tonight, I'm going to say this. You know what your relationship with God is like. You know. I challenge the best ones in the room. So, obviously I'm the best. So next to me, the best people in the room, I challenge you. Is your experience in Christ where you thought it would be by now? All kidding aside, and I know the two people I can really see well with these legs. You guys know nobody's harder on me than me. You guys know that. You can tell. And I eat these words with you. You know, that's a fact. I don't walk out of here going, ha ha ha, they needed to hear that. Boy, do I know what a double-edged sword feels like. My answer would be, by the way, is my relationship with Christ, meaning my end, is nowhere near what I thought it would be by now. Nowhere near. My experience with Christ is so beyond what I ever imagined possible. That we do not have a 50-50 going on. We don't even have a 99-1 going on. We have a 1 million, billion, quadrillion, whatever number there is, infinite, aggressive person in this relationship, and a schmuck. That's what we have here. That's all we got. That's what it feels like. And, you know, my God, I don't even know what my best day is, but I'll say my best time is always in this room. I will tell you that. This is as good as it gets for me. And I'm super spiritual right now. And all I'm thinking is, oh gosh, it's going to be a long night when I get back to my hotel room. I got to eat that, I got to eat that, I got to eat that, I got to look at that. And, you know, that's just fine. Because it means the Holy Spirit's still working with me. And I heard once, you're still saved if the Holy Spirit's still working with you and you know it. I heard that. I know I'm still saved even if I don't know it, but I'm glad I'm getting attention. But other people in the room, I want to say to you, if you know Jesus, is your relationship where you thought it would be? And I'm going to say the answer is always going to be no. But is your experience where you thought it would be either? And so many of you would say, I really thought it was going to be better. I really thought it was going to get better. I'll tell you, first 10 years of knowing Jesus might be really rough on anybody. If someone tells you it's going to get better, they need to finish the sentence. It's going to get better when you least expect it. And when you least expect it is usually when you give up on it ever getting better. And however long that is, will seem like an eternity. Then it might start seeming to get better. That's the truth. Not for everybody. But one day, God shows up in your life as you've been faithful to Him, and He blows you away. And suddenly He just makes up for all that time. He just restores all those years. He restores them. He comes in and somehow you go, I don't feel like I wasted my time. I don't feel like I lost anything. Not like I did. And then your life in Him really begins, and your ministry in Him really begins. When your life and His life for you, in you, and through you end up in the same place, you are truly feeling alive in Christ. But in order to get there, you have to accept Him on His terms. It always seems like the part that, you know, they love you, they like you, they're okay with you, they're starting not to like you. Okay, you went too far. Went too far. You have to accept Him on His terms. I don't think it's nice for evangelists to come into rooms and say, it's going to be great. This will be the happiest day of your life. It was for me, but there are bad days shortly thereafter. I mean, it happens. It's not about happy. It's about getting right. I like to be right. My family used to say it's going to be on my tombstone. He was right. Because I debate and debate and debate and debate until people just gave in and let me win. I just like hearing I'm right, even when I'm not. But I want to be right. I want to be right with God. I filled my head with so many horror movies, I better be right with God. You know, there's a lot of noise in here. Are you right with God? Are you right with the right God? That would be the third night of a revival. Are you right with the right God? Meaning, are you right with your perception of what you think God would be, the one you invented? Or are you right with the God who created you? Christianity's rough, man. This was so much easier in the 80s. I remember how easy this was. It was so different. It was so different. But now, everybody talks about Jesus. Oprah talks about Jesus. If you want to hear what I said about that, Paisley Yankolovich, Oprah on YouTube, enjoy the ride. I'm not going to ever say that again, but boy, did I say it that night. If you're here tonight and you have not gotten right with God, and I always do this, if you're out in TV land and you are not right with God, how do you know how many days you have left to do this? How do you know? I mean, really. When my kids got into high school, I said, now you're at the age that one of your friends is going to die. Or you're going to be one of your friends that die. Now you're at the age where this starts to happen. If you make it all the way to high school, without someone you love committing suicide, having a drug overdose, getting leukemia, or being in a car or plane crash, you've done pretty good. But by the time you get into high school, your days of not being touched by the death of someone your own age are coming to a screeching halt. Screeching halt. In the last 3 years, I've held my kids through suicides, drug overdoses, accidents, disappearances, murders. It's the way it goes. That was just on our street, by the way. But, you know, ministers don't make a lot of money, so we live in a bad area. But they also experience a lot of that stuff with their friends. And you become part of the death culture. And I'm not going to ask anyone to raise hands who's been touched by this stuff, and I'm not going to ask who's already lost a parent. Okay? And always one. Wasn't it enough? I gave you my string. I gave you my G-string, brother. All right. Somehow, if I put it like that, they always give it back to me at the end of the night. Have you noticed that? If you don't say that, they're cool with it. But how do you know how many days you have left? And are you the only person that matters? Like, if you don't come to the Lord, and maybe you're not, doomed to die in the next 3 days, what about one of your friends or family members, or teachers, or ministers, or... Are we so selfish that not only will we not allow God to have the relationship with us He wants, but we're also going to prevent the people we can reach on His behalf? This is something I see all the time. Christians are so incredibly selfish with their salvation. That makes me sick. And I'll be honest, it's because I'm doing so much work that it makes me mad. If I could get away with not doing anything, I could care less if you do anything with it. But being the one that's doing all the packing and unpacking, and someone else is sitting there, playing with their phone, I'm ready to kill them. Everyone feels that way. And that's how I feel sometimes as an evangelist. But if you're here tonight and you're not right with God, I hope somewhere tonight you heard that you're loved. I hope you heard that. If not from my mouth, from the mouth of the Holy Spirit who's in the room with us. If you're here tonight and you are not right with God, I hope you've heard that He needs you to reach someone you care about. If you're here tonight and you are right with God, I hope you heard that He needs you to reach someone you care about, by the way. But I'm going to say this. People who are right with God don't act like people who aren't. Now, it's not 100%, but there's some element in our personality that's different. There's something that happens in us that makes us want to pursue a different path. Are we perfect? I hope not. I do a lot of preaching for a living, and I go, if I'm the example of it, people walk like, I'll never be as good as Paisley. Trust me, you probably already are. And I'm not being humble, by the way. I don't have a humble bone in my body. That has nothing to do with humility. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. That this has nothing to do with how good you are. It's how much you care about the effect of your goodness on God's feelings and the lives and eternal resting place of others that we become so concerned with. Everybody sins, everybody struggles, everybody goes back to the thing they